This is a three-way mayor's race. We have the incumbent mayor and two challengers. You're one of the challengers. Can you introduce yourself and let folks know, who you are and what you do?
Yes, I am currently the executive director of UV Care's mental health clinic. I was the founder and I sit on the board and I run the clinic. In addition to that, I'm an adjunct professor of business at Washington State University, and I've been doing that for a number of years now. I teach both undergraduate and graduate and advanced graduate business courses at Washington State University. I come from a small town of what was a very small town back then of Edgewood, Washington. We never said that we were from Edgewood because we were so small, but we were, it's about 5 miles north of Puyallup.
And your primary engagement in Leavenworth is at the UV Cares mental health clinic. Can you tell me a little bit about that project?
Yeah, so UV Cares, I've been a Superior Court guardian ad litem for, I believe I'm in my 30th year now, several decades. And prior as a Seattle police officer, I saw a very significant need in regards to mental health. As in my role as a Superior Court guardian ad litem, that same need is still there. So it doesn't seem to matter, exactly where everyone fits, but there's a strong mental health need there. And we needed to meet that need. And so it was a matter of stepping up, seeing that the need was there, stepping up, putting the infrastructure in place, and then opening the clinic. And so we are in our 6th year now, and we're just getting ready to expand beyond mental health needs. Now we just finished opening a new division. We're waiting for state certification for the substance use disorder, which is the drug and alcohol addiction. So we start that in Leavenworth, but we're certified throughout the state.
From your perspective, Becki, what is the state of the city of Leavenworth right now?
I'm pretty concerned about the current state. I think the community is very fractured, and growing up in a small community of Edgewood, we had to rely on each other. The community was, population-wise, we were about 2,000 as we spread out, but centered-wise, it was about 25% the size of current Leavenworth. And so we really had to depend on each other to identify the issues and look at resolutions and then implement those resolutions so that we can bring it to fruition for the benefit of the community. We don't have that going on right now. And I'm quite troubled about what I have been seeing for several years now. We have, not only are we fractured, but we have an entire community that is quite angry, frustrated. The majority of the community is not being heard, and I have a very significant issue with that. The leaders of the community are not there for themselves. They are there for the majority of the community. The community runs that city, and as it should be. But that's not what's been happening, and it hasn't been happening for a number of years. So we do not have trouble getting community members to city council meetings. We have trouble getting them to come back because they're not heard. We go through the motions and we hear the city saying those words, we want to hear you, your voice is going to be heard, and then they are ignored. Even if the majority has stated their opinion, it's still ignored repeatedly. That needs to stop.
Well, when you're speaking to citizens of Leavenworth, people that you say, as you characterize it, might not have had their voices heard, what are they saying to you? What problems are they bringing up that they'd like the city to address, or like you to address as mayor?
Yes. When I am out talking with community members, they're very clear on the issues that have fractured our community, the high-density housing. There are some that support that, but it's a very, very small percentage. The significant majority of community members strongly oppose that. And it's been in play now it's been in the motion for about 3 years. It's been in play for a couple of years, and it's an absolute disaster of what we see. If you drive around the communities, we have very large structures going on very small lots. All of the trees are removed, and I mean every tree from the property is removed. Our small mountain community is becoming this, it's on the way to this metropolis. It's not the small mountain community that we all moved there for. We need to protect that. And so a big divisive issue that's happening right now is this high density housing. And the focus on that has been so linear that it doesn't seem to matter how many community members come forward and say, you've got to stop this, please stop this. It's no longer just a request. The city has, community members, the majority of them, has actually been to the point of begging to have this stopped and slowed down, and so we can figure this out and become more balanced, and it's just been ignored. So that's a big issue that's been going on. The parking issue has been going on forever and a day. We still don't have the solution. We've had possible solutions, and they've been disregarded, to the point of not even being considered where we have sit-down conversations, which is what we should be having. Just as we are having a conversation right now, that's what the community, the majority of the community members have been begging for. Let's sit down and talk about this. Instead, there's been, no, this is how it's going to be. Whether that's working or not, that's how it's going to be.
A lot of that's been undertaken as a step to address the high cost of housing in Leavenworth, which is very high. So if we want to slow that process down, as you put it, what are the alternatives? What steps do you then take to try and control or bring down the cost of housing so people can afford to live in your town?
Absolutely. First of all, everyone's welcome in our town. This isn't just for us. This is for everyone. We have to be realistic, though, of what we can and what we may not be able to do. When we look at the high density that's happening, well, first of all, let me back up. If we attempt a solution, we need to monitor those steps at all points. And if it's not working, we need to stop. Don't create any more damage on something that's not working. And that's just a business practice that you do. You've got to be able to be comfortable with yourself and say, you know what, I don't know if this is working as we planned. Let's stop. Let's not create any more damage. We have not succeeded in that. We still have, what's being built with the high density is over $1 million properties. No one is going to be, most people are not going to be able to afford that. So we have to be realistic. I do think there are programs within the state, at the state level as well as federal level, where we can have subsidizing. We have about 15% of our existing housing is at subsidized. It's based upon the person's income. So it caps it at 1/3 of their income. We want that. We could do more of that without clearing out all these properties and jamming a lot of folks into sardines, like sardines in a can, when we're not prepared to do that. So I think we have to start with asking the question, yes, everyone is welcome in Leavenworth, that's our goal. But realistically, here's what we have to answer. One, do we want the high density? We have to answer that question first.
Well, the voting period for the primary election begins July 14th, goes all the way through August 1st. Get your ballots in by then. Leavenworth Mayor candidate Becki Subido, thanks a lot for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You're watching the NCW Live channel.